Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, it's almost midnight, so this Commodore Vanderbilt has been here for just about 12 hours. It got here about noon today, 12:30, something like that. Which means I have been running this thing non-stop for at least the last 10 hours. And I'll run it, oil it, run it, change the consist, run it some more. Just doing testing on it to see how it runs, what it can pull. Anyway, I started going through this tin litho and cleaning it up. And as you can see, it's still far from perfect, but it already looks 1,000% better than it did. So I got the first 8 of them done, and there's, excuse me, there's lots of them on here. So I will touch these up as best I can. They're never going to look perfect, but they're going to look more than acceptable. This one I will touch up with a marker and then oil it, and that will look almost repainted. You can really save these things, and this one was just as bad. And as long as you're careful, you can see where it's been scratched through the letters. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can go around it and fill in the spaces where it's down to bare metal. And you can actually clean these up quite good. And this is all just marker and oil. And I'll be progressing on to these, and they're all in fairly decent condition, and they're not prizes, they're not collector's items, but they're rolling stock. And like I said, I didn't buy any of these just came with something else I bought on eBay. Anyway, I'm going to take this around, and I've got 16 cars on here, and I wanted to show you the Caboose I put together. Anyway, let's take this around. So I took one of the oil tenders, and which was in fairly bad shape. Took it apart, and I had this 3824 body, which isn't in that great a shape, but there's no major damage to it. And snapped it onto this 8-wheel tender base, or flat car. And although it doesn't fit it perfectly, it made a fairly nice car, which has 4-wheel trucks. So it's really hard to beat that. This actually looks pretty good, considering all of this was just junk. I mean, it all came with stuff that was being sold for parts. So none of it is in perfect condition, but all of it is in working condition, and that's the important part. Anyway, let's take this around. I've got this engine lubed and tuned, and like I said, it's been running for 10 hours. And this thing is just running absolutely perfectly. This is 50% power. So this engine's just purring, pulling 16 tin litho cars. And I don't know if you can tell by the sound, but excuse me, this is making a very interesting sound. And the only way to describe this is when you have a consist that's running well. I'm really difficult to describe this. When you have a consist that's running well, it produces one continuous noise. There's no individual noises coming from the cars that you can hear. It just produces this rumble as you hear. And you can tell a consist is running well by how it sounds. And since there's no individual noises, it means these cars are running absolutely perfectly in unison. I hope that was a lucid description of what I'm trying to describe. Anyway, you can tell by the sound of these things how they're going to run. But in this case, as you see, this Commodore Vanderbilt is running just absolutely splendidly. You know, an 80-year-old engine, 14 bucks on eBay. And about 5 minutes work. I've done really nothing to it. I did clean the brushes and lubricated the axles, blew the grime and the junk out of it. One thing I want to mention real quick is that if you don't have access to an air compressor, use one of these. It's a computer duster, and all it is compressed air. But it is great for getting down inside these engines and blowing out the lint and the dust that's accumulated in there. And if you blow it out before you oil it, you actually get rid of it. If you oil it first, all that junk just soaks up the oil and basically sticks there. Anyway, this works really well, and it's just compressed air. And they actually make these. Harbor Freight sells them. You can actually take to a gas station and refill it, and it's just a can of compressed air. But like I said, it comes in really handy. You see, it's got some pressure. And the nice thing about it is you can put a few drops of oil on this engine and then just blow the oil around. And it's an old trick. I was an apprentice gunsmith in my youth. And that's how you, in a gun shop, that's how you oil a gun. You just put a few drops of oil all over it and then blast it with compressed air. And that really, really sprays that oil in a very, very thin film over every single moving part. And it works. So these, you can find them anywhere. Walmart has them. I would imagine you probably find them in a lot of grocery stores now. And like I said, it's just a can of compressed air. But it comes in really handy for getting down into cracks and crevices. And you can blow a lot of junk out of these motors with that can of compressed air. It works actually quite well. And it's great for spreading out oil. It really works well. Anyway, just want to do a follow-up on this Commodore Vanderbilt. As you can probably tell, I'm having a wonderful time playing with this. And I've been running this thing all day. 20 cars, 22 cars, 25 cars, 28 cars, seeing what it's capable of pulling. And I've got 16 on here now. And these were the best of the ones that I have. And none of them are prizes. But they're all more than acceptable. And the nice thing about it, of course, is they roll, they have couplers, they look reasonably good. And they didn't cost anything. It just came with other stuff that I bought. And this is actually the very first time I have put them all together as one consist. And they've been in that box forever. Anyway, it gave me a new tin litho consist. So I took the passenger train off. I've got it stored under the layout. And for the next few days, anyway, I'll be playing with this just to see what it can do. And, excuse me, it's always interesting to run a new train, especially something as different as this is. I mean, it's all tenders and a couple of cabooses. But like I said, it was also all free. So a new train with a new locomotive to pull it. So having a lot of fun. Anyway, I just wanted to do a follow-up on this. This, like I said, this engine is just running great. 14 bucks on eBay and 10 minutes of my time to oil it. And that's all I've done to it other than cleaning it. And the thing is just flying. That's 50% power. So really hard to beat that. And the longer I've run it, the better it is run. So now it's just absolutely purring. It is running just absolutely splendidly. So just a follow-up video. Don't overlook the junk. Anyway, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.